Hello, my name is Gil Deckel. This is a draft for an online tutorial that helps students learn how to search for books. I'm going to share with you the process of making this tutorial and some tips and advice of how to consolidate information and make navigation easier. So, when you receive your brief, the text that you need to convert into the online design, you want to make sure that you consolidate information, make things easier by reducing the amount of clutter of words and images. I want to show you this small thing here at the top left where it says Library Catalog WebCut. Initially, the brief says WebCut, and under WebCut it says the Library Catalog. I'm going to pull it over and show you here. So we have WebCut, and then it says WebCut is the Library Catalog, so forth. So because we're starting with the word WebCut, which students don't know what it means, we have to explain it. We have to use more words to explain it. Whereas if I turn it the other way around, starting with Library Catalog, assuming that everybody knows what a catalog is, and then put in WebCut in brackets, I don't need to explain it, because what I'm saying here, this is about a library catalog which we called WebCut. I can assume that when students read WebCut, after they read library catalog, they would understand that this is what we mean. This is how we call our catalog. So I have reduced a lot of words and a slide. Don't need to explain it simply by putting the phrases, the words, the sentences in the correct order. Another thing is consolidating the amount of buttons. So here you see we're saying find, and below it a book, book by topic, e-journal, and e-book, and so forth. If I show you the original brief, initially we've written find a book by subject, find ebook, and here transfer a book, find a journal. So looking at our initial brief, we looked at the keywords here. What is the repeating keywords here between this button, and the keywords is not book, is find. So we took the word find and we put it here, and then we could reduce the amount of words. So instead of student having to read find a specific book, find a book by subject, find an e-journal, find an e-book, we're saying find. And under find, you have all its sub-chapter, all the categories. So reducing the amount of visual clutter and verbal clutter by consolidating information. Of course, then there is color-coded, as you can see here, which run through the whole presentation. Let me show you an example. So green, the green color-coded remains here, and I've chosen red bold color to identify the message that I want to convey on top of the screen grab. So this is the screen grab from the actual system, and this is explaining how to use it. Now red, I chose the color red because it's strong and it is a color that calls for an action. However, it may be too strong. I might need to reduce this color. Also, what I will suggest in future is when you use your screen grab, these images from the actual online system, make them black and white so that your text on top of it will look much better. So maybe in future I will take this screen grab and make them actually black and white. Now, at any point there is a home button, and this is crucial. I've seen presentation where there is no home button and you cannot go back home. Always make sure that from any slide your user can go back home. There is back, there is next, and there is pause. And once you click pause, it says click to play. So this is also important. I didn't put just the word play, I put the word click to play, because when you're in a pause mode as we are now, you may not know it. I mean, notice students may have clicked on pause by accident, for example, and they're just standing there. They don't know what should happen next. They don't know that they are in a pause. So you have to say, if you want to click, you have to say click to play. I've noticed this problem when I watched BBC iPlayer on Xbox, where there's a button that says HD. I never know if I have to click on it to turn it to HD, or whether it's telling me you're already on HD. In addition to this navigation, I did include this timeline slide here, because some student, I think, some user will simply hold it and go zip, like that. It will go very quickly. So if you don't want to, you just wait for it to run on its own automatic pace. But if you want to, you can just hold the slide and move it quickly back and forth. Now I want to show you this slide and how I'm using graphic and text to save on time, but still deliver the message without without giving the answers. For example, this is a slide about how to find a book in a library. So what I've done here, I'm not telling the student the answer. I'm not telling them where is the book. What I'm doing, I'm keeping the question. The question is, where is my book? This is the question that the user, the student, will have in their mind when they're looking for a book. So I'm keeping it, where is my book? And instead of giving them the answer, instead of telling them, you will have to look at the area where it says location, and in the location, look to find in which library it is, I don't do all of that. I don't give them the answer. I simply give them tool to find the answer by themselves. The way to do it is to use this graphic with this arrow, with this borderline here, which denote tells the student, where is my book? To find the answer, just look right here. Here you will find the answer. I don't tell them, I don't give the answer. I give them the visual graphic tool for them to find the answer by themselves. How do I find the book on the shelf? Well, this is a bit more complex. So you have to note down the call number. This is the call number. Once again, I don't explain what a call number is. I might need to do so in a different place, but here I don't explain it. I don't tell them, listen, this is your call number, but I tell them, note down the call number. So when the student, the user is reading this sentence, note down the call number, and the graphic is with the arrow directing to this, they say, oh, that is a call number. I may not know what a call number is, but I understand that this is a call number which I need to write down, and then using this call number I need to find the book. So this is a graphical way to create clues, communicate message through your graphics without wasting time on explaining everything. You cannot explain everything because you don't have time to, and also because things may change, the location may change. So we need to give students the tool for them to find location, to identify that this is a call number, this is something they need to use in order to find books. So even if we change it in the future to a different number, or the number will be somewhere else on the page, still the student know, okay, there is this thing called call number which I need to identify. We want to credit the user for the intelligence. We don't want to spoon feed them everything. We talk with words but also with graphics, and when you talk with graphics it is much quicker and you don't need to use words, so you can save on a lot of slides and content in your presentations. And this is an online presentation. The last thing I want to show you, this is the last slide. This is the last slide in this area here. But how would the student, how would the user know that it is the last slide? I know it because I've designed it. But here the slide stops. It's not paused. It's stopped. It's reached the end. And student may look at it, the user may look at it and think, well, where's the next? I'm stuck. So in order for them to understand that this is the end of this chapter, of this area, what I've done is this flashing home button here. You see? It's flashing, it's pulsing. When something is pulsing, it's a graphical symbol to say, look, not me, notice that I'm alive. It's like a heart beating, so it's saying, look, I'm alive, look here. And when students would look here, they will realize, well, they need to click home. So I'm speaking to the user without using words. I'm speaking to user using graphics. Also, I've deleted the next button here, so you cannot go next anymore. So there's no next, and the home button is calling to my attention. Therefore, I have no other chance but I click and go back to the home page. On the home page, obviously, once you've visited the chapter, as this one, you have a tick box saying that this was visited, so you don't need to do it again. So these are some tips and advice about developing online articulate presentation. These tips and graphical advice are good for anything, even if you develop a website. The basics of graphics are good for print and for online as well as for interactive presentation. There is no much difference. My name is Gil Deckel. Thank you very much.